Rizal's life, his exile, trial, and death. Let's begin the discussion with La Liga Filipina, or what we call the Philippine League. The Liga Filipina was a progressive organization created by Dr. Jose P. Rizal in the Philippines in the house of Doroteo Ponghongco at Ilaya Street, Tondo, Manila in 1892. The organization derived from La Solidaridad and the propaganda movement. The purpose of the Liga Filipina is to build a new group sought to involve the people directly in the reform movement. What are the aims of La Liga Filipina and who are the members of the La Liga Filipina? The aims of La Liga Filipina are to unite whole archipelago into one vigorous and homogeneous organization. Second, mutual protection in every want and necessity, defense against all violence and injustice, encouragement of instruction, agriculture, and commerce, and study the application of reforms. Who are the members or the directors of the La Liga Filipina? First, we have Jose Rizal, the founder, Ambrosio Salvador, the president of the League, Agustin de la Rosa, fiscal, Bonifacio Arevalo, treasurer, and Diodato Arellano, the secretary and first supreme leader of Katipunan. During the exile of Rizal, there were members or persons who took over their roles. These are the persons took over during the exile of Rizal. First, we have Domingo Franco, president, Diodato Arellano, secretary, treasurer, Isidro Francisco, fiscal, Apolinario Mabini, the secretary, Marcelo H. Del Pilar, editor-in-chief, and Graciano Lopez Haina, former editor-in-chief. Jose Rizal's arrest and trial. The steamer España carrying Rizal, his wife, 5 family members, and 6 of his Tapitan students arrived in Manila Bay on August 6, 1896. As per instruction for Spanish authorities, Rizal was transferred to a Spanish cruise ship named Castilla. Rizal stayed on board the said cruise ship Castilla from August 6 to September 2, 1896 while waiting for the steamer which would bring him to Spain. Sometime on the first few days of August 1896, the Katipuneros led by Emilio Jacinto tried to rescue Rizal. He, however, refused their rescue offer and reasoned out that his escape might make him appear like a common criminal. On August 26, 1896, Andres Bonifacio started the Philippine Revolution through a battle cry now known as the Cry of Balintawak. Rizal more or less expected this to happen and was worried that Spaniards may again implicate him for this uprising which he himself did not favor. Last trip to Spain. On August 30, 1896, Rizal received a letter from Governor-General Ramon Blanco. This letter consists of good wishes for him, along with 2 recommendation letters addressed to the Minister of War and the Minister of Colonies of Spain. On September 3, 1896, Rizal boarded steamer Isla de Panay for Spain. He was confident that from Spain he would be brought to Cuba as military doctor to fulfill his humanitarian offer, that is to take care of the needs of the Spanish troops and the Cubans affected by the revolutionary there. On September 7, 1896, Isla de Panay reached Singapore. Don Pedro Rojas, another Filipino friend, was with him in the steamer. Don Pedro Rojas and his friends tried to persuade him to escape from the clutches of the Spaniards. Again, Rizal refused and reasoned out that escaping is only for criminals who are evading arrest and possible imprisonment. On September 30, 1896, Rizal was placed under the arrest of Captain Alemany. After receiving the telegraphic order from Spanish authorities in Manila, Rizal was confined to his cabin after the said arrest and was treated as a peace prisoner on board. When Rizal was in Barcelona, on October 3, 1896, their steamer arrived in Barcelona, Spain. October 6, 1896, Rizal was transferred to Montjuic Castle. The former Governor-General Eulogio Despujol was there as the military commander of Catalonia and had jurisdiction over the said castle. Rizal was confined to a prison cell and was transferred to another steamer named Colon at about 8 o'clock in the evening at the same day. Rizal later found out that the destination of the said steamer was Manila. This was then found out by Rizal's friend in Europe, Dr. Antonio Maria Regidor and Sixto Lopez. Upon learning the captivity of Rizal, the two sent telegrams to an English lawyer, Mr. Fort, who filed a case at the Spanish Court of Justice. Mr. Fort claimed that Rizal was illegally detained in a Spanish steamer. But however, the Singapore judge could not act on the said complaint of Mr. Fort because the steamer Colon was carrying Spanish troops to the Philippines and therefore was considered as a warship of the foreign power. On November 3, 1896, Rizal on board Colon arrived in Manila. He was immediately transferred to Fort Santiago, where he was imprisoned until his execution date 57 days later. In Fort Santiago, Rizal was not allowed to see his family and friends for several weeks. During these said weeks, Spaniards tried to build up charges against him. His brother Pasiano and some Filipino patriots were violently tortured in order to gather evidences that they could use against him. On November 20, 1896, the investigation against Rizal started. He was subject to interrogation that lasted for 5 days. The investigation was headed by Judge Advocate Colonel Francisco Olive. He gave two kinds of evidences. First, the 15 documentary evidences, and second is the 13 testimonial evidences. Let's discuss first the documentary evidences. So these are the documentary evidences given by Judge Advocate Colonel Francis. First, October 16, 1888 letter of Antonio Luna to Mariano Ponce, which implied that Rizal had something to do with the Filipino reform movement in Spain. Second, the August 20, 1890 letter of Rizal to his family in Calamba, which mentioned the deportations have a positive effect because Filipinos will be encouraged to hate Spaniards' cruel ways. Third, the January 7, 1889 letter of Marcelo H. Del Pilar to Deodato Arellano, showing Rizal's connection with the propaganda movement in Madrid. The poem Kundiman, written on September 12, 1891 by Rizal, which mentioned that his beautiful country is bound in chains, is an oppressed slave of tyrants, and is longing for liberty. September 18, 1891 letter of Carlos Oliver to an unknown individual, which stated that Rizal will be the Philippine savior from the Spaniards' tyrannical rule. The February 9, 1892 Masonic document, which glorified Rizal for his services to his beloved country. May 24, 1892 letter signed by Di Masalang, which is Rizal's pen name, to Ten Luz, pen name of Juan Zulveta, which mentioned a refuge place for Filipinos oppressed by the Spaniards. The September 3, 1892 letter of Ildefonso Laurel to Rizal, stating that Rizal was considered by the Filipinos as their savior. September 17, 1892, letter of a certain Rizal Segundo to an unknown correspondent informing him of the arrest and exile of two Filipinos, which are Doroteo Cortes and Ambrosio Salvador. The June 1, 1893 letter of Marcelo H. Del Pilar to Don Juan Ten Luz, Juan Zulveta, suggesting the formation of an organization free from masonry that could help the Filipino people. The transcript of speech of Pinky Ann, Emilio Jacinto, delivered in a reunion of Katipuneros on July 22, 1893, which mentioned of subversive cries, "Long live in the Philippines, long live liberty, long live Dr. Rizal, unity." The transcript of speech of Tiktik, Jose Toriano Santiago, delivered in a reunion of Katipuneros on July 22, 1893, which also mentioned anti-Spanish cries of the said group of people, "Death to the oppressor nation, long live the eminent Dr. Rizal." And lastly, a poem written by Laonglaan, Rizal's another pen name, with a title Atalisay, wherein the students in the Pitan in the form of song chanted that they know how to fight for their rights. Those are the documentary evidences presented during the trial of Rizal. Here are the testimonials given by Deodato Arellano, Martin Constantino, Aguido del Rosario, Jose Dizon Domingo Franco, Pedro Islactao, Timoteo Paez, Francisco Quezon, Jose Reyes, Antonio Salazar, Ambrosio Salvador, Moises Salvador, and Dr. Pio Valenzuela. To complete the preliminary investigations, Colonel Olev submitted the said two types of evidences to Governor General Ramon Blanco. Captain Rafael Dominguez was appointed Judge Advocate by the Governor General. As the Judge Advocate, Captain Dominguez summarized the charges against Dr. Rizal and returned this to Governor General Blanco, who in turn submitted them to the office of the Judge Advocate General Don Nicolas de la Peña. The Judge Advocate General, after scrutinizing the documents, transmitted the following recommendations. First, Rizal accused must be subjected to trial at once. Number 2, he must stay in prison while waiting trial. Third, an attachment order must be issued against his properties to the amount of 1 million pesos as a form of indemnity to the Spanish government. Fourth, an army officer, not civilian lawyer, must defend him in trial court. So from a list of army officers submitted to Dr. Jose Rizal, he chose Don Luis Taviel de Andrade. Who is Don Luis Taviel de Andrade? He is the defender of Rizal in court. Don Luis turns out to be the brother of Lieutenant Jose Taviel de Andrade, his former bodyguard in Calamba in 1887. Having heard good stories about Rizal from his brother, Don Luis gladly accepted the assignment to defend him. On December 11, 1896, the charges brought up against Dr. Rizal were read to him in the presence of his counsel Don Luis Taviel de Andrade. After hearing the said charges, Dr. Rizal made it clear that 1. He was not questioning the court's jurisdiction on his case. 2. Since his exile in Dapitan, he had not been involved in political activities. 3. He did not admit the charges against him. And lastly, he did not admit the statements made against by the witnesses. The trial at court-martial. Governor General Camilo G. de Polavieja, who replaced Governor General Blanco, received Rizal's case on December 13, 1896. He authorized the order to subject Dr. Rizal to trial by court-martial on December 26, 1896, a day after Rizal's saddest Christmas Day, as he was all alone and in despair inside a prison cell in Fort Santiago. On December 26, 1896, at 8 o'clock in the morning, the court-martial trial of Rizal started in the Cuartel de España, a military building. Rizal, wearing a black suit, white vest, and black tie, sat on a bench between the two soldiers. Like a common criminal, his arms were tied behind him. He maintained his composure and looked dignified. Rizal was accused of 3 crimes. First, rebellion. Second, sedition. And third is illegal association. Attorney Enrique de Alucer, the prosecuting attorney, delivered a very long speech enumerating the charges against Rizal. He tried his very best to convince the members of the military court to give the death verdict to Rizal, the accused. Upon hearing Attorney Alucer's petition, the Spanish spectators noisily cheered and clapped their hands. The defense counsel, Luis Taviel de Andrade, came next after Attorney Alucer. He ended by reminding the judges to be just and avoid vindictiveness when making decisions. The court asked Rizal if he wanted to add other things to Lieutenant Taviel de Andrade's defense of his case. Rizal answered in affirmative and had given supplementary defense to make the 12 statements. So Rizal made 12 statements as his supplementary defense. So first, he cannot be accused of rebellion because he was not in favor of revolution. Second, he had not contact with the radical revolutionary groups. Third, his name was used by revolutionary elements without his permission. His very peaceful life in Dapitan, where he built a house, a hospital, and bought lands, were proofs of his non-involvement in revolutionary activities. He was not consulted by revolutionists when they started their uprising. He wrote La Liga Filipina, but he could not be accused of rebellion because this was just a civic organization. La Liga Filipina did not last long because he was already exiled in Dapitan. La Liga Filipina was recognized 9 months after he was banished to Dapitan. Then La Liga Filipina did not serve purpose of the rebels, otherwise this could have taken the place of the Katipunan. If he wrote bitter comments on his letters, these were written in 1890 when his family was dispossessed of their lands and his brother-in-laws were deported and exiled. His exemplary life in Dapitan was witnessed by Spanish political military commanders and missionary priests, and they could attest to it. And lastly, he denied that his speech at the house of Doroteo on Hongko inspired the revolution, as alleged by some witnesses. But with these statements, the military court remained indifferent. So, Lieutenant Colonel Cogores Arjona, the president of the military court, closed the trial and ordered the clearing of the court hall. After a short deliberation, the 7 members of the military court voted unanimously for the death sentence of Dr. Jose Rizal. On the same day, December 26, December 26, 1896, the said decision of the court was transmitted to Governor General Polavieja, who in turn consulted Judge Advocate General Nicolas de la Peña regarding their decision. He affirmed the death sentence. Governor General Polavieja approved the decision of the court-martial and ordered the execution of the death verdict on Rizal on December 30, 1896 at Bagong Bayan Field, now known as Luneta.